This is Jeff Durkin with wearechangect, just giving you guys an update about a story related with General David Petraeus, former head of the CIA and former commanding general in Iraq and Afghanistan, recently pleaded guilty to accidentally divulging classified information to his autobiographer and then girlfriend Paula Broadwell. It's an interesting story because of the implications that how the government treats people like Petraeus, who get special treatment, a slap on the wrist, 2 years probation, and no jail time, compared to whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, John Kiriakou, Thomas Drake, along with so many others that get the absolute wrath of the U.S. government, whether it's jail time or just isolation or tactics that the U.S. government reserves for basically murderers, essentially, that whistleblowers like them get so much more jail time and suppression than so many other people. But it really ties into a lot of different things with this case, this double standard that this has related with how the U.S. government views leaks by General Petraeus compared to, say, Edward Snowden or Chelsea Manning. Now, this deals into the Espionage Act, which was still a World War II, a World War I era law in 1917, passed in 1917 by Woodrow Wilson at the time, which was used for people who leak classified information to the enemies of the United States, which is penalty under treason and eligible for the death penalty. But the Espionage Act was only intended for people like that, for espionage, obviously, for leaking information to enemies of the United States. Now it's being used by the Obama administration, which has prosecuted more whistleblowers than any other presidents combined, over half a dozen times now, with the most recent one, Jeffrey Sterling, and so many others which we'll break down in this video that people really need to know about, because this is how the U.S. government views people who expose information for the public good, who expose classified programs for the public good for no money incentive at all, just for the sake of the truth and getting the information out. Now, Petraeus basically did it to impress his girlfriend, pretty much, where he had a black books of classified notes and about operations, intelligence briefings, memos about agents overseas involved in covert operations. He basically did to impress his girlfriend, then Paula Broadwell. And when he was head of the CIA in October 2012, he was interviewed by the FBI and lied to them. Basically, he didn't share any information with anybody. At the time, he was interviewed at CIA headquarters saying he wasn't interviewed by anybody during that time. Now, we're going to go into other cases of how it really shows the double standard with General Petraeus compared to other whistleblowers. Now we'll start off with Thomas Drake, who we've interviewed 2 years ago in New York City at the NDA panel discussion, where his life was basically shattered by the government, millions of dollars of legal fees, and threatening him with life in prison because he leaked information that wasn't classified, and then when it was published, it was reclassified. So then the government said, he's leaking classified information, that's a penalty under the Espionage Act, which the government completely reversed it, where the documents weren't classified in the beginning, and then they were classified. This really goes into the information about the government, how there's millions and millions of documents that are classified for no apparent reason that shouldn't even be classified in the first place. But that's a whole nother story for a future video. But this one related to the double standard with Petraeus. Again, continuing with, obviously, Chelsea Manning, who we've done several. We actually went to Fort Meade to cover it, to extensively cover that trial, and also do interviews with journalists Alexa O'Brien, Kevin Gosztola, Birgitta Jonsdottir, a former Icelandic member of parliament who was speaking out when her first trip to the United States 2 years ago about Manning's case and how important it is. We also did interviews, obviously, with Thomas Drake, and then Jesselyn Radek, who was Thomas Drake's attorney, she was representing him, and she's also as an advisor to Snowden, who we've also interviewed about Snowden's case and also her case in general. But more modern, recent ones are people like Stephen Kim, who was a State Department official who simply just talked to a reporter, a Fox News reporter, James Rosen, and then was threatened with the Espionage Act. He ended up taking a plea deal and serving 13 months after 5 years of battling with the U.S. government on what charges would he be brought upon him. People like John Kiriakou, who was the only CIA officer to go to jail for exposing the torture program. The people who carried out the torture program didn't serve a single day in jail. The only person to serve time is the one who exposed the program, the torture program, originally. For more background on that, you could check out Kevin Costolo's interview with him, recent interview. I highly encourage people to check that out. About his case where John Kiriakou served over 2 years in jail for simply exposing the torture program for the public good. But it really goes into, and then the most recent one was Jeffrey Sterling, a CIA officer who was involved with talking to a reporter about how the U.S. was sabotaging Iran's nuclear program right around now, and he was recently is now being persecuted by the government once again under the Espionage Act. So this is a continuing trend by the Obama administration, and this isn't just a one-sided issue. This has happened decades and decades regardless of who's the president, because that doesn't really matter. But with Obama, the war on whistleblowers is continuing, and I don't see it really ending anytime soon, because of how the U.S. government views leaks. If you're part of the club, like General Petraeus, and you accidentally leak classified information to your girlfriend to impress her, then you get a slap on the wrist and serve no jail time for really no gain other than to simply impress his girlfriend. But if you actually do it to expose information about, say, torture, NSA surveillance, classified government programs that should be known about for the public good with no incentive for making money whatsoever, then you get the absolute wrath of the U.S. government. The U.S. government will come after you. And it really shows just how they view people like Snowden, Manning, John Kiriakou, Stephen Kim, Thomas Drake, so many others. This is how they view whistleblowers. And it's not going to end, because it really shows just it's a big giant club. If you're not part of that club, then you're gonna be suppressed by the government simply for reaching out to a reporter, for simply talking to a reporter, but for simply talking about these types of programs that should be known about, with documents that should be known to the public. The government has always used tools like the Espionage Act and so many others to silence whistleblowers, which was never intended for whistleblowers in the first place, only for covert spies who reveal information to the enemies of the United States, not for whistleblowers who expose programs for the public good that should be known by every single American. So these interviews are all very important. You can check all those out on our YouTube channel and subscribe. But let us know what you think of this video and how the crackdown on whistleblowers is going to continue. Do you see it continuing? Do you see it increasing, or is it turning in a better direction? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Check out all of our other interviews about these cases and how the Espionage Act is really a big implication for whistleblowers, not just now, but future Edward Snowdens, future Mannings, future John Kiriakous, all of those people that had a conscience and stood up when they needed, when the American people need them the most. People like them stand up and say, I have a conscience, I'm going to expose this information for the public good. Because the public deserves to know. The public has a right to know. These people should be revered as heroes, and instead are called treasonous, traitors, unpatriotic. And it really shows just how the U.S. government views whistleblowers like people like that, compared to General Petraeus, who is former head of the CIA, commander in Iraq and Afghanistan. People revere him as a hero in some ways, which I find that hard to believe. But again, it really shows just how the double standard is, where Petraeus is in one tier, whistleblowers are in the other, and one gets the better treatment than the other. So again, check out all of our other interviews about this case, the Espionage Act and its implications. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And check out all of our other videos related to the Espionage Act, and also our coverage of Manning's trial, and all of our other interviews with whistleblowers, and many more videos similar to that one and others coming soon.